Hello and welcome to the Sharp 600, brought to you by Covers.com and presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm your host, Jason Logan. The first episode of 2025, the last episode of the NFL regular season, and joining me as always is Mr. Todd Furman. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Thank you. Same to you. A little bit different spending New Year's out here in Las Vegas after living out here for 20 plus years than when I was 24, 25, trying to run elbows with all the knuckleheads down on the strip. I'm just thrilled that I actually can make it to midnight at this point in my life. J-Lo, something that I'm sure you can empathize with.
Yeah, I did not make it. I had to get up. I had to take my mom to the airport on New Year's Day really, really early. So I was like basically down for the count by 10. It was a quick turn in for me.
Actually, honestly, I am jealous of you being down by the count by 10 because it would have kept me on my normal schedule.
Yeah, and then kids and holidays and all that stuff. Like my sleep schedule has just been super, super erratic. And speaking of erratic, that's basically what we get with NFL Week 18 is just this mess of motivations and coach speak and starters going. I know you touched on it last week. You gave us a little sprinkle of strategy around Week 18, but what do we really need to look for? Are there opportunities for like better first half numbers? Is it best in play? What do we really need to grab hold of? Where's the value hide here in Week 18?
You know, this may be low-hanging fruit, but I think to your point, this is the kind of week that you're looking to take advantage of every single market that you have at your disposal. Mm-hmm. Whether it's first halves, whether it's the player prop market, or some of the derivatives that may not offer the same opportunity and upside during the course of the first 17 weeks. But it's a lot more like the preseason in terms of doing your research, doing the reading, and then hoping that coaches stay true to their words because they may say they want to play their starters for extended stretches. You may or may not believe them. But actions speak louder than words, and oftentimes those in-play algorithms can't adjust fast enough. So this is the one week, even for folks that like to put in their bets and forget about them, you may want to lock and load with those apps and try and tell the wife and kids to go out and enjoy the day because you are going to be parked in front of the TV trying to take in all the action for any opportunity that presents itself.
Yeah, it's a strange, for those of the uninitiated, like they look at Week 18 and it's like, should I even be betting on these games because we don't know what's going to happen? But much like the preseason, and you touched on this last week, like there's little breadcrumbs along the way here that are going to tell you how these games will fold out. Rarely in the regular season are you going to get coaches telling you exactly what they want to do here. And we can find that in some of these Week 18 games. Just got to pay attention and like you said, try to take advantage of some of those alternative markets. A reminder before we get going for Week 18 here, please like, subscribe, rate, review, do all those things for the podcast on whatever it is that you use to take us in each and every week. Give us some comments. Let us know how you're going to navigate your Week 18 wagers as well, too. We appreciate that feedback. All right, Todd, we've come to the end of the road. It's not time to cue the boys to men yet. We still have the playoffs. We still have this enigmatic Week 18 to get through. But let's go. 600 seconds on the clock. All right, Todd, time for some New Year's resolution. We made it to 2025. The confetti's popped. The champagne is stale right now, but let's reflect on how we want to be better bettors going forward. Just kind of want to put some stuff out to the universe, see if we can inspire some others as well, too. Any New Year's resolutions when it comes to your wagering?
You know, honestly, Jason, it's being more open-minded. I think we talked about the level of parity we saw through the first 5 weeks of the season, all of those underdogs that were winning outright. It's been a complete role reversal since that point. If you blindly bet favorites since week 5, you'd be hitting at a clip north of 57%. And maybe it's a trend that we'll see continue with a true separation of the haves and have-nots. I know the old hats are going to be angry with this comment, but look, betting a bad team because you're getting 1.5 to 2 points of value in the modern NFL with an emphasis on passing and scoring may not provide the same opportunity and upside it would have years ago with significantly lower totals. And when we're talking about the difference between 4.5 to 6, maybe not nearly as marked with the bad teams as what we've grown accustomed to in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talked about live betting, and that's one thing that I used to do a lot of, and now I don't know. Maybe it's like it's like going to the gym. I just got lazy and I don't do it as much anymore. But there are those opportunities, whether it's to kind of double down on a good handicap or kind of bet against those anomalies in the first half, knowing that they're probably going to correct themselves going forward in the second half. So that's one thing that I should get back into more of. The other thing is being more active in the awards market. This we've talked about this before on the podcast. This is the one futures market that sees the biggest swings like week to week compared to anything else. It's sports betting sometimes too. And, there was a time this year where it was inconceivable to think that anyone but Derrick Henry was going to win Offensive Player of the Year. And you could still grab Saquon Barkley close to 3-1 around like week 11. But now, now he's a minus 10,000 favorite. So we've seen those opportunities come up. I think that's something that I want to do as well too, is just get myself in better position, especially with an awards market, so that at the end of the year, I'm looking at a winner no matter who comes out on top. That's one thing that I'd like to do.
One thing I'll add to that, Jason, and I think it's important for folks that do want to have the same resolution, make sure you're handicapping the narrative and the voting process more so sometimes than what you're seeing on the field. And I think the perfect illustration of that is the ongoing debate around the comeback player of the year market, where the NFL said one thing and now they may reverse course. So always keep that in mind, that it may not just be the X's and O's you see on the field, but of a lot of the dialogue that's gone on. Just ask the folks in college football that decided to run over men, women, and children to bet Travis Hunter to win that award this year.
Yeah. We got the postseason coming up here. We know who some of these teams that are going to be in. I wanted to see how far you think these teams can go. What is in their pedigree? And I'm going to throw some teams at you. You let me know how far you think these teams can go into the postseason. The LA Chargers, going to be dancing. How far can they go?
I think they can win one game if they get the right matchup in the wild card round. I still think this roster has a lot of holes that need to be filled this offseason. Yes, J.K. Dobbins being healthy makes them more balanced, but you look at the receiving room, it's Ladd McConkey and a bunch of also-rans. And from a defensive difference maker standpoint, I have some major questions. So this is a Chargers team maybe you look to buy stock on in the offseason, but I think their ceiling is one postseason victory.
All right, let's go to the Washington Commanders. How far can they go?
This is a little bit of a Cinderella story because I think the NFC is significantly more wide open than the AFC. So if the Commanders get a favorable draw, would you rule them out being able to upset a Detroit Lions team that's banged up on the back end, a Minnesota Vikings team that still has questions about Sam Darnold and if he has that postseason pedigree, or even a divisional rival who they match up well with in the past? So I think Washington could be a little bit of a Cinderella and maybe get as far as an NFC Championship if things broke the right way.
This is an interesting one. We'll say in the NFC, Green Bay Packers.
This is a team for me that I think is a little bit overvalued right now. We've seen a few kinks in the armor in recent weeks. The passing game has looked erratic. When they've stepped up in class, there have been some holes in that resume. You look at how they've navigated through a very difficult NFC North. 0-4 against the two capable teams, and 1-0 against the bottom feeder in the Chicago Bears. So I think Green Bay's a team that I bet last week against the Vikings came up a bit short, but I'm a bit skeptical, especially with Jair Alexander lost for the season, what the ceiling truly is for the Cheeseheads.
All right, real quick. Baltimore Ravens, Super Bowl or bust?
100%. Super Bowl or bust. Lamar has to finally break through and prove that those MVPs are meaningless if he can get his name on the Lombardi Trophy. If they don't win a Super Bowl, it is a disappointing season for Coach Harbaugh and company.
All right, thank you. Let's look at the two Saturday games. We've got Browns, we've got two AFC North games. Browns and Ravens. Any analysis, any bets for this one?
The Browns-Ravens game is interesting, not just because it's a massive point spread, but where do the Browns go for offense? You watch them last week against the Dolphins. They struggled to move the football, couldn't get to 300 yards. They're a little bit limited, to say the least, with DTR. If anything, maybe you're trying to make a case while the Ravens are still fully entrenched for the Browns' first half team total under, but the markets are so depressed right now at 11.5, 12 for the full game. And what's to say that the Ravens don't call off the dogs if they have a 2-touchdown lead late in the fourth quarter? So maybe look to lay it with the Ravens the first half, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's exactly where my head went. I like Browns' first half team total under. It's minus 124. It's a little more pricey, but we could be getting the two-headed monster of DTR and Bailey Zappi in this one. And like you said, the Ravens still playing for something at least in the first 30 minutes. The Browns have put up 7, 6, and 3 points in the last 3 games. I see them going under 6.5. You can get under 5.5 at plus 110. But under 6.5 being under that touchdown. Let's go quickly. Bengals and Steelers. What do you like in this one?
Tough handicap because the Bengals are being priced like the Kansas City Chiefs were on Christmas. I mean, the Chiefs closed a 2.5-point favorite. Here we are with the Bengals -2. Look, this offense is as explosive and dynamic as any in the league, but do I want to lay 2 on the road in this spot? No. Maybe I'm looking at the player prop market and expect Joe Burrow to continue to light up the scoreboard, or a T. Higgins anytime touchdown type of bet, knowing this could be his final game wearing Tiger stripes.
And I'm going to go against the grain, and I'm going to go under 48.5 in this one. This is going to feel like a playoff game, and I think Mike Tomlin has looked at this defense, seen them struggle the last 3 weeks, has the mini bye to tighten the bolts, and then Cincinnati actually has improved on defense recently, which is not that hard to improve on being terrible, but they have been better. I like the under 48.5 in this one. Let's go the big game of the week, Vikings at Lions. What do you like here?
Vikings are passed for me at +3. I think they're capable of getting a stop or two. This Lions defense is real cause for concern. I know the Lions have been outstanding from an ATS perspective, but I just get the feeling the Vikings can be semi-live. No opinion on the biggest total that we've seen on the board so far this season.
Yes, Speaking of big total, I'm going to go Tim Patrick over 18.5 receiving yards in this one. It's out there, minus 110. The Lions have to win a shootout. Goff's going to be chucking it, and it's a buy low spot on Patrick. He's basically been invisible the last 2 games. However, a lot of the projections very bullish on him. Some as high as 44, a lot over 30. He's stepped up and played big against some big teams too. He's played Buffalo, had Buffalo a good game against again, had a good game against Green Bay. He could knock this one out in one catch. So I like Tim Patrick over 18.5 receiving yards.
Like it.
All right, touchdown anytime for Week 18. Todd, tee it off, baby.
And you know, J-Lo, I am a sucker for a storyline, and while part of me wanted to make a case for Mike Evans to have multiple touchdowns, knowing what's at stake incentive-wise, this could be the last game that we see Aaron Rodgers throwing to Davante Adams against this Dolphins defense. I'm going to take Davante Adams plus $1.50 as an anytime touchdown score. But you look at the numbers from weeks 11 to 17, Davante top 6 in the league in terms of red zone targets. He's found pay dirt 4 times. I know a couple of those came against the Jags. But you have to imagine if A-Rod has a chance inside the 10, he's looking for his familiar friend.
You old sentimental softy, you. I'm going to go Jaylen Warren. Pittsburgh running back, plus 220. Warren actually edging out Najee Harris in terms of snaps and touches here the home stretch of the season. Has not scored a touchdown since week 12. Only has 1 touchdown this season. However, Mike Tomlin talking about him this week. Improved health, his importance to this passing game. High total against Cincinnati. All kind of plays into a positive day from Warren. So I like his TD chances, plus 220 to find the end zone there in the Saturday game. 2-minute drill time and some final best bets for the regular season. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers over 22.5 yards for his longest reception. It's minus 118 out there. Baltimore wants to put the Browns to bed quickly, and that means Lamar's going to come out, be aggressive. Cleveland has a big problem stopping those home run plays, allowed the 5th most passing plays at 20+. Flowers, the guy to exploit that. He's ranked among the more explosive wide receivers out there. He's gone over 23 yards or higher in 9 of his last 12 for his longest reception. So I like him to have another big home run play here early on, over 22.5 on his longest catch.
I mean, you tell me I'm the sentimental softy with a storyline. Zay Flowers becomes the first Ravens receiver in 39 years to make the Pro Bowl, and here you are betting him over. I'm going to go back to the Jets game that I broke down a little bit earlier. Made a case for Davante Adams anytime touchdown score. I'm going to take the Jets plus 1. Ooh. Look, Tyler Huntley and company went on the road last week, and they took care of business as a road favorite against the Browns. But this is a divisional foe, and while everyone wants to write the Jets off for dead, rightfully so, they had the Dolphins beat the first time around in South Florida with Tua under center. I think the Jets vanquish any Dolphins postseason aspirations.
Are we doing New Year's resolutions? I almost made never betting on the AFC South one of my resolutions after the goddamn season we've had with that conference.
One more time, I will not do it for us. One more time. Let that be
a lesson. Kids never learn. I'm going to go Houston. It's a short dog. I'm going to avoid the Week 18 weirdness. I'm going to take them on the money line to win the first half. It's even money out there. D'Amico Ryans probably going to at least play as starters for the first half. They have a lot of unfinished business here. They have to get a positive before the playoff. They have a bad game. I could see them at least winning the first half here, money line.
You know what? I came real close there. I mean, it's hard to not want to bet against the 2-headed quarterback monster that is Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, who apparently are going to split reps. I'm going to go to a meaningless game in the NFC West and look for points. I know we get the Josh Dobbs debut as a starting quarterback with Brock Purdy being sidelined against his old foe. Arizona can cut it loose with no James Conner to feed in the backfield. I just get the feeling that these two teams can go out there loose and free. Some injuries on both sides that could impact the defense, and we could be in store for a little bit of a track meet in the desert.
All right, good stuff. That is the Horn on the final podcast of the regular season. I can't believe we're going to be talking postseason odds here next week. This is nuts. A big thanks to Dell behind the scene. Big thanks to Todd as well. FanDuel Sportsbook, thank you. And, of course, thank you for tuning in and listening to us every single week of the regular season. We've got some big stuff coming up for playoffs. We have some big stuff coming up for Super Bowl, so stick with us here on the Sharp 600. Also, too, take a second, rate, review, like, subscribe. Do all those things that help us boost the podcast. We appreciate that. Todd, postseason odds going to be hitting the board here. Any things that people need to look for in those first few hours of action for postseason?
Yeah. I'm very curious to see when we get updated odds. Once we know the matchups in the AFC in terms of the yes-no pricing to get out of that conference, the Chiefs, of course, going to be the favorites there, knowing that the road runs through Arrowhead. But if the Ravens' price is interesting enough, they may actually get a few shekels from me. But I think more importantly, circle that calendar, barring an upset. What a game we could see in the divisional weekend. Baltimore on the road in Buffalo, 2 teams starving for a level of postseason success. And then in the NFC, take a blanket, cover up all 7 teams that are going to get in, and your guess is as good as anyone's in terms of which team right now is clicking on all cylinders, is healthy overall. I think the NFC is as wide open as we've seen in recent years.
It is. It is. I was looking at look-ahead lines this morning for those matchups, and in the AFC ones, we have like lines as 6.5, 7.5, 7.5. You look at the NFC playoff picture right now, everything is like a field goal or shorter. So going to be some tight ones, and wild card underdogs always have some bite as well too in the postseason. All right, Todd, thanks so much for that info. We will be back next Wednesday to talk postseason. That's crazy, but until then, best of luck with your bets. Hey, NFL fans, you can make every moment more this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch at FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager, only $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets will expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.